Welcome to part 3 of the Legend of Legaia Retrospective. In this final part, we'll be going deep into all aspects of the story: setting, world building, characters, plot, and themes. If you have not yet watched parts 1 or 2, please be sure to watch them as well to get the whole picture. I tried to make it so that you can watch them in any order, so feel free to watch this one all the way through before moving on to the parts you missed. Legend of Legaia has a more simple story than its peers, but there's still plenty to talk about, so let's get down to business. Fair warning, there are spoilers ahead. Legend of Legaia takes place in the fictional world of Legaia, which largely resembles a pre-industrial society. While it has some elements of the medieval Europe-influenced high fantasy worlds we're accustomed to seeing in these types of games, like castles and enchanted forests, the technology is much more advanced, and machines of many types are used all over the world, like the large fans in Byron Monastery and the windmills in the Sebikis Islands. There are even houses constructed out of logs or stone. While the setting is very Western, the religion of Legaia is tightly tied to the Eastern martial arts of the temples of Byron, and most young people are trained in the fighting arts. These technological advances come not from coal or internal combustion engines. Rather, they come via the most high fantasy element of Legend of Legaia: Siru, creatures that the people of Legaia have used as tools for the entirety of their recorded history. Legaians believe that Siru were given to them as a gift from the god Rem. For the last few years, the world has been covered in a heavy mist that causes Siru to go berserk and attack humans. Humans who are using a Siru when the mist comes will become monsters as well, bonded to the Siru and losing control of their minds and bodies. Our story begins in the small town of Rimelm, where a boy named Vaughn is preparing for his first hunt. All over Legaia, humans have different ways of protecting themselves from the mist and the wild Siru. Rimelm's solution is very simple. There are no Siru in the village, and the village wall separates the people from the monsters. After you set out on your journey, you'll find out the consequences for those settlements that fail to provide themselves with protection against the monsters, as many of them have been overrun. These are all excellent examples of world building. It tells the player what to expect and how the world works, and Legend of Legaia is consistent in following those rules. From a storytelling perspective, the beginning is formulaic to the fantasy genre. The protagonist lives in a small village, isolated from the rest of the world, and his big adventure starts on the eve of his first venture outside of that place. This story is similar to that of Frodo Baggins or Luke Skywalker, and it's been echoed 1,000 times over. Vaughn knows very little about the world outside of Rimelm. He's never been beyond its walls, well, except for when he was very small and went searching for his mother, which resulted in his father chasing after him only to be crippled by a Siru monster. So here we have a setup that shows that Vaughn has some limited exposure to the outside world, and likely some desire to return to it one day and see what's out there, and that he's experienced tragedy in his life. These things are all part of the sort of classic hero recipe in a fantasy story. Unfortunately, Vaughn's mother died out in the mist. And of course, as these things go, Vaughn is about to have his world shaken up. Keeping true to the monomyth, the hero's journey, as Joseph Campbell has so brilliantly outlined, Vaughn is called to action. A strange man named Zito appears in Rimelm and calls forth a giant Siru monster to destroy the wall. The town is flooded with Siru. With all of their hunters missing or wounded, Vaughn is the only able-bodied person in the village who can fight off the Siru. He makes his way to the Genesis tree in the center of the village, a tree that is very old and is a symbol of wisdom and faith for the people of Rimelm. Vaughn learns the true nature of the Genesis tree when its raw Siru, Meta, emerges. This Siru, immune to the mist, joins with Vaughn, giving him the power to restore the Genesis tree and push back the mist. With Vaughn's newfound power, the people of Rimelm encourage him to journey out into the mist-covered world to revive the Genesis trees and free the world of the mist. He leaves behind his father, his little sister, and even his sweetheart to cross the threshold into the unknown and face the trials that will make him a hero. The Ra Siru provide supernatural aid to the heroes throughout the adventure. The Ra Siru talk to the heroes throughout and provide them with the ability to use magic as well as revive the Genesis trees and destroy mist generators. These are large machines that are used to pump out the mist all over the world. Of course, Vaughn will not be on his journey alone. What would a JRPG be without a plucky group of underdog heroes? Vaughn soon meets two more heroes who will be by his side for the entire journey. Vaughn serves as the silent protagonist, so the player is responsible for giving him an identity, and the supporting cast riffs off of these choices. Noah, an orphan girl who grew up in the wilderness with the aid of the Raseru Terra. Her isolation has made her emotionally stunted, and she has some difficulty related to other people. However, she is very kind and outgoing, even if she is just a little bit overzealous. Noah has dreams in which her parents speak to her and she seeks them out. The story of Noah's parents is integral to the plot and changes a lot of what we thought we knew about Legaia. Gala, a monk of Byron Temple, is cast out when he bonds to his Raseru Ozma. Gala is taciturn and seems embarrassed by his own humanity. He has a strong sense of duty and honor and takes himself entirely too seriously. These archetypes probably sound familiar to any fan of JRPGs or anime, and, well, they're extremely well done here. The characters are likable and they have their own charm even without a tremendous amount of dialogue or exposition. Legend of Legaia does a tremendous job of telling the story without these large exposition dumps that we see in a lot of JRPGs. The heroes also receive aid from a number of supporting characters. They're aided by Hari, a three-faced prophet and magical being who tells them all about their future and speaks to the god Rem. They also get aid from Teague, a divine being who is both human and Seru and tells them the truth about the Seru. From Teague, our heroes learn that Seru were never meant to be in the human world. Teague created two worlds and separated them, until a rogue Seru opened the gate between worlds. Teague then sent the Raseru to the human world to set things right. From Hari, they learn that Teague and Rem are one and the same. They receive critical assistance from Kara and her lover Grantis. Grantis is a tragic hero all his own. He's one of the Sorin, a race of humans that can use Seru wings to fly. When he fell in love with the human Kara, he was promised a set of Seru wings for her, in exchange for helping build a flying fortress for the evil people who created the mist. He regrets this choice. Not only did he never get the wings that were promised, but he lost his own and did great harm to the world of Legaia. This of course all leads to a very important question. Who is responsible for the mist? A story like this of course would be no good without a compelling villain, or villains, for the heroes to defeat. As Kaneko said, every story needs a dark side that is terrifying but defeatable. One of the greatest storytelling elements of Legend of Legaia is that your main antagonist remains a mystery for much of the game. Finding out who is responsible is part of the journey. The player is given a main antagonist to pursue during the game in Gala's friend and rival Songi, who appears to have a Raseru of his own that the other Raseru do not recognize. Later in the game, you find out this is a Sim Seru, as is the large one that attacked Rim Elm in the beginning. These are Seru that were made instead of born, so not only are these bad guys creating the mist, they're also making evil Seru of their own. Songi taunts the heroes as they get closer and closer to solving the puzzle. Some of the other major enemies, Zito, Zora, and Jet, are encountered before the party reaches Conqueror and finds out the truth of the origin of the mist, after which their identities are revealed. Actually, Jet is after that, but you get the idea. There is much exposition in the third act leading up to the hero's arrival in Conqueror, but it's all handled really organically. The big revelation that Noah's parents are none other than the king and queen of Conqueror, and the villain who devised the mist is her elder brother Court. Zito and Zora are his loyal retainers who betrayed the king and queen and joined up with Court to create the mist and the Sim Seru. The mist was originally made as a weapon to win the war between Conqueror and Sol, but the mist and the Seru warped Prince Court's mind. He seeks to cleanse the world by having all humans merge with corrupted Seru. JRPGs in the PS1 era really told great stories, and this is one of the best ones. It's pretty simple, but at the same time it's got a lot to say. So what is Legend of Legaia trying to tell us? I think the most obvious theme is that of over-reliance on technology. I'm sure many of us can relate in the information age. The Seru represent technology. In a very literal sense, it's a technology that shouldn't even be available to the people of Legaia, and it only exists to begin with because someone broke the rules, almost like it's a taboo that has become not taboo because of the way it's used or the way it's viewed. Per Takahiro Kaneko, the Seru represent science and technology, but we shouldn't rely too much on them and forget about basic human strength, or let trust in basic human relationships break down. We wanted to show that the future is something each person creates for themselves. That's a paraphrase quote from Takehiro Kaneko. It is the Legaians' reliance on the Seru that allows Court to weaponize them through the mist, and it's the corruption of the Seru that leads Court and his companions to try to destroy humanity. I think there's also some critique here of religious doctrine. The Legaians all believe that Rem gave them the Seru to help them, but the heroes learn that this is false. The Seru were never meant to be tools for humans. I believe what the game is trying to tell us here is that we should question and challenge our traditions and belief systems, ask the question why, and seek to separate the truth from the fiction, kind of like that old story about the grandmother who cut the ends off the hand. At the same time, there's a very strong connection to the Abrahamic religions because there's a trinity, and it keeps coming up a lot in this game. There's always these references to the number 3. There's 3 heroes. There's 3 faces of Rem. There are 3 continents. There are 3 forms of Hari. Court has 3 lieutenants. The number 3 could be a representation of the Holy Trinity and a commentary on the divinity to be found in all things. I think it speaks to the idea of there being balance in everything. Just like how Vaughn is this sort of balanced character, and Gala and Noah are kind of opposite extremes, all the things in the world of Gaia have to have a center between those 2 extremes. But maybe I'm just reading into this a little bit too much. What do you think of the number 3 and the way it relates to Legend of Legaia? Let me know in the comments. I also see a theme here of self-destruction. We see a lot of parts of Legaia overrun with Seru monsters because the people simply refused to give them up even after the mist came. And it talks a lot about our modern world and the number of things that are harmful to us and to the world we live in, but that we're so dependent on that we just can't stop using them. Or, in a lot of cases, inconveniences that we're so used to having that when they're taken away from us, we don't know what to do. A lot of the technology we depend on for our everyday lives has negative consequences, but it all comes back to Kaneko's main point though, which is that we shouldn't really allow technology to replace our humanity, or we all become Seru monsters in our own way. Legend of Legaia is a true classic that has a number of very well executed, unique elements. Over the course of this 3-part retrospective, we've taken a close, critical look at every aspect of this game, and I think I can say confidently that it deserves high marks all the way around. The presentation is fantastic, and it's one of the better looking 3D games on the PlayStation. Expertly scored with a truly creative battle system, lovable characters, enjoyable story, and relatable themes. You can tell a lot of care was taken to make this game. The folks responsible most certainly made this as a labor of love. Legend of Legaia has the kind of heart that it's rare to find in a video game today. While it largely slipped under the radar, I know those of us who ran out to buy it after renting it or playing the demo back in the day can all agree it's one of the best RPGs on the PlayStation. If you haven't played it yet, I absolutely recommend it. You can find it on eBay and stuff like that, and of course if you want to play it in other ways, you can also of course do that. Wink wink, nudge nudge. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and enable notifications, and drop a comment down below to let YouTube know that you want to see more Risky Bitness. Thank you, and until next time, game over.